I'm John Hanna for CityTV.net here in New York City, and we have Peter Dickie, the President and CEO of Quantum Rare Earth Development Corporation, joining us from Vancouver, Canada. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, well, tell us your day at Quantum Rare Earth. What happens when you come into the office? What is the first thing that you look at?
Well, essentially, we have a very strong following overseas, in Germany in particular. So oftentimes the first several hours of my day are spent in communicating with European investors and European brokers. And then it shifts to, along with the time zones, it shifts to a Eastern Canadian and Eastern U.S. focus. And then towards the end of the day, it certainly entails the West Coast people.
That's a pretty long day.
It is a very long day, often.
Well, okay. Let's talk about your company. A little bit of background about the company.
Well, Quantum was originally it was a fully listed company that didn't have any primary assets. We secured the control of the company several years ago. We were then offered the opportunity to acquire the Archie Lake rare earth property, and at the same time we were made aware of this phenomenal project in Nebraska called the Elk Creek carbonatite. The Archie Lake acquisition was performed a couple of years ago, almost 3 years ago now, and the Elk Creek acquisition was, the wheels were put into motion on that at about the same time. The final transaction didn't occur until about a year and a half ago, when the entire land package was secured. And of course, since then we've dedicated the vast amount of our time and our resources in developing that project in Nebraska.
Last time we spoke about your project is back in February of this year. Can you tell us the development from February and now?
Well, of course, as I mentioned, we've released our resource report that came out in March of this year. We started our drilling program in late April, early May. We received the results on that over the summer, and one of the reasons in particular that we wanted to drill additional holes into the niobium zone was to obtain fresh core material to start the process of metallurgical testing. Of course, the best deposit in the world from an assay point of view has to be, you have to be able to extract the particular mineral from the rock in order to make it economic, and that's the significant test that we're undergoing right now. We anticipate that those results will be arriving sometime in November, although it's with the processing that they do, there's always sometimes results come quickly, sometimes they take a little bit longer. So we have our fingers crossed that those results will be out in November. And of course, our next step beyond that is to perform a preliminary economic assessment report on the niobium deposit itself. So that would encompass the metallurgical test results, and it would also encompass our drilling that we performed over the spring and summer, and is much more of a comprehensive look at the deposit and the potential economics of the deposit.
Okay, if you could just remind us again, for people who didn't hear the previous interviews with you, what is the market size for niobium?
Worldwide, the market size for niobium right now is in the range of 100,000 tons per year. The primary producers of that are, first and foremost, there's a single mine in Brazil, which is called the Araxá mine, and it's a privately held mine. The company's name is CBMM that owns it. They have, of course, some of your viewers may be aware, they have sold off a total of a 30% interest in that mine in 2 transactions this year. The first was in January when a consortium of Japanese and Korean steel companies purchased 15% of the mine for a total of $1.95 billion. And then the most recent was a consortium of Chinese steel companies which purchased an equal 15% interest in the mine for the same price. So they've sold off 30% of that mine for just under $4 billion this year. And in essence, what these companies are doing is they're locking up supply. There are really only 3 mines in the world that produce it. That particular mine produces in the range of 80 to 85% of the world's supply. The other project of note that produces niobium is the Niobec mine in Quebec, which is owned by IAMGOLD. And IAMGOLD have publicly disclosed that they are looking at spinning off that particular mine to separate it from their gold assets. And we've been sort of sitting and waiting to hear the latest developments from that company, but of course in recent months they've announced that a number of firms have looked at it. They're looking at selling off a 10 to 20% interest in that mine and then operating it as a subsidiary. They would like to expand that mine and the production from there, as they are very optimistic with the future market for niobium and the growth in the market, as are we. And they feel that there is certainly a need for additional production going forward, and in that vein, certainly there's room for additional producers going forward, which is where we feel we will slot ourselves in.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at it from the I'm looking at it from the investment point of view. Currently, right now, based on the resource estimates, again, these are just estimates based on past drillings that you already have on paper, the results of those past drilling. What is the potential value of the Elk Creek, Nebraska location? That's
a great question. Our resource report, resource estimate that we published in March of this year, and it was produced by Wardrop Engineering, which is a subsidiary of Tetra Tech out of the U.S. They calculated a resource of 80 million tons, grading 0.62% niobium pentoxide, which is, of course, the material we're after. That equates to roughly 500 million kilograms, that's billion with a B, or roughly 1.1 million pounds of niobium. And at current market prices, which is in the sort of low to mid $40 per kilogram range, you can certainly see that there's a very substantial in situ value contained in that deposit. Now, of course, we still have to complete our metallurgical studies, which will tell us exactly how much of the rock, how much of the niobium we can obtain from the rock. And we're quite hopeful that we'll be able to replicate the previous testing that Corp did 25 years ago, where they obtained quite decent recoveries. And then, of course, the overall aspects, financial aspects of the project have to be looked at initially through the preliminary economic assessment report, and then following that with a full feasibility study. But the numbers that we are working on internally, based on our own interpretation of the results, and together with assays and working with Wardrop Engineering, we're very confident that we can move this project forward into a fully recognized economic deposit. And when can we start seeing shovels in the ground, as they say? That's always the proverbial $10,000 question. You know, we do have to go through a methodical process of ensuring that the economics justify the deposit. And as I mentioned, we believe certainly that that we're well on our way to doing that. Now, production of the PEA document, we're expecting once we finalize arrangements that we'll be able to be looking at a completed document for that sometime in the first quarter of 2012. And of course, following that, we'll have a much better direction and timing aspect as far as jumping into a full feasibility study. But we believe that we can move into a full feasibility stage shortly after that. and as part of that, that will take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to complete that report. And then after that, we'll be likely be at a decision where we can start looking at putting shovels in the ground. So the permitting issues are the initial information that we have at this point in time doesn't lead us to believe that we're going to run into any major permitting issues in Nebraska. Certainly the folks that we've talked to, both at the local level and right up to the state level, are certainly encouraging us and providing whatever assistance they can at this point in time to move this project forward in a timely fashion. But the permitting stage is one issue that we have to overcome during the feasibility study stage and following that. And so that's another factor that will affect the timing as far as putting shovels in the ground. But as I mentioned, we're receiving tremendous positive feedback and positive response to everything we've done so far. So we're not anticipating that's going to create any lengthy delays.
Full disclosure, are you buying or selling shares within the next 1 or 2 years?
I would certainly be buying. I haven't sold a share.
Okay, that's good to know. The other thing is that where can people find some more information about you guys and your ticker symbols?
Well, certainly our website, which is quantumrareearth.com, has a wide range of information on all of our projects, in particular our Elk Creek project. And as far as the ticker symbol is concerned, we trade on the OTCQX in the U.S., and our symbol is QREDF. And we also trade on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol QRE. And for those European listeners that you may have, we trade on the Frankfurt Exchange under the symbol BR3. So we have 3 different venues where investors can find information about us aside from our website, and of course 3 different exchanges. So there's a wide variety of information out there, and certainly by contacting the company, any investor could also get additional information.
Great. That's Peter Dickie, the President and CEO of Quantum Rare Earth Development Corporation, joining us from Vancouver, Canada. And I'm John Hanna for CityTV.net here in New York City.